Range anxiety. This is the one common worry that every single person that have ever ridden an electric vehicle of any sort would all share. It's like from the minute that you leave your house, this clock starts ticking in the back of your mind, where you know it's just a matter of time before you have to start frantically looking for an outlet. Now, are you curious what it's like to not constantly live under the fear that your battery is about to run out? Well, let me introduce you to my Gotway Monster.
This week, long range test for the Gotway Monster, and see the riding since my legs will probably give out before the Monster does. Roll the intro! As always, if you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe.
Alright, 30-second intro. This is the self-balanced electric unicycle. You control it by leaning forward and back for acceleration and braking. And yes, it is harder to learn. However, in return, you get a much larger tire to deal with any potential bad terrain you might encounter, as well as one of the largest battery fitted to any type of personal electric vehicles. Alright, on to the range test.
So way early on, I had done a long range test for the IPS i5 with a trip out to the Astoria neighborhood of New York City for barbecue. And of course, for the i5 long range ride, it's just a bit more than 12 miles, which may not seem like much, but for a wheel small enough to fit into a regularly sized backpack, it is a pretty impressive feat.
But for the Monster, we're going to expand our range aspiration by quite a bit. I am still on a mission to make it to a barbecue, since what fun would it be otherwise? The only difference is that the friend I'm visiting this time live on the north end of Westchester County, which is more than 50 miles away from where I live, downtown New York City. And to add to the challenge, having biked this route years ago, from what I recall, the bike path I'm going to be taking all the way north actually has a slight incline almost the entire way, since it follows an old freight train route up north.
Now, in case if you haven't been keeping score, the Gotway Monster with the extended range battery mod is the current long range champ in the electric unicycle world. For comparison, the boosted extended range battery pack has a capacity of 199 watt-hour, where my Monster has a total of 2,460 watt-hour, more than 12 times the range of the boosted Stealth. Do you now see why some of the e-board riders here in New York City is having a hard time resisting the siren call of the electric unicycle? We start our trip on the Hudson River bike path on the side of the West Side Highway, a nicely paved straightaway that would take us all the way up to the Inwood neighborhood of Manhattan, far to the north. This is a favorite star of a ride that sometimes leads to the river crossing on the George Washington Bridge to Fort Lee, New Jersey, and a beautiful ride along the cliff facing Manhattan. But today we're gonna stick to the New York side and head straight due north. The terrain rises steeply as the path climbs towards the cloister, a museum set on a cliff with a dramatic view of the Hudson. It is a quiet and beautiful spot, consists of a medieval architectural complex that has been transported here from Europe brick by brick back in the 30s.
So battery check. We're about 10 miles in. I just checked wheel lock and I used up 14% of my battery. So 10 miles down, 40 miles more to go. I almost never come up here. There is a lot of very interesting stuff. This is also a very famous spot. That set of stairs right there is in a lot of TV and movies. Very unusual for such a long set of stairs on the street in New York City.
Didn't take us long to make it past Inwood for the Harlem River crossing on the northern end of Manhattan at 220th Street over the Broadway Bridge.
Oh, I hate these sort of bridge. You drift a little bit when you hit those gratings, and it always freaks me out.
So aside from the occasional visit to the New York Botanical Garden or the Bronx Zoo, I rarely visited the Bronx. Probably why I'm a little bit lost while trying to find my way.
This elevator subway train is like one of the most New York looking freaking thing ever. There wasn't a really obvious marking on where to get onto the Putnam Trails, which is the trail that I'm supposed to be following all the way up north.
The trail is supposed to start somewhere here in Van Cortlandt Park. Took me a few loops to find the starting point, but it didn't exactly help.
Well, I guess that's not going to work. It's closed till 2020. So we gotta catch it on the north end of this park.
My attempt to cut through the park failed as I got hopelessly lost on the winding off-road trails, so it's back to the street I go.
So I didn't make it through Van Cortlandt Park. The Putnam Trail is supposed to cut right through the middle of it, which was how I got through it last time, since it was on constructions, so I couldn't really use it. So now I am actually riding around the park. I remember this neighborhood. It was really very hilly and very pretty.
By the way, did you know that there's a decent sized little Italy right here in the Bronx? We have had several wonderful and very authentic meals up around here, so it's definitely worth the effort to look it up if you're ever in the area.
Alright, I think this is finally it. I remember this portion. And this is it. This is a nice long trail that just basically go the rest of the way, I believe.
This is the starting point of the Southern County Trail, which connects to the Putnam and eventually the Northern County Trail for a combined 43 miles of beautiful, if somewhat grueling, uphill bike ride. Also take us up into the heart of the Westchester County. Was going to be a very long ride, but thankfully I brought the ultimate accessory when it comes to long distance rides, a seat.
So one of the perks of riding the Monster is that it has a really solid seat options. Now it's no more than just a block of foam fitted to sit on top of the plastic casing. However, by the nature of its larger diameter wheels, the Monster also have the tallest body of any wheels available, which means that you sit higher, a lot more comfortable than, let's say, the MSX, where you have to squat way down in order to reach the seat.
The one downside to the seat is that since there's no suspension while seated, you're essentially bearing right down on the axle, which translates any road imperfection right into your tender rear end and up your spine. And it sounds as uncomfortable as it is in reality. The larger and cushier tire on the Monster certainly helped in this regard. But despite the occasional bad surfaces, it was hard to resist riding seated. Not that it was effortless, but there is something almost magical with gliding along a wooded path on a beautiful day while seated and in complete silence.
So for those people who aren't familiar with New York City, Westchester County is about an hour north of the city and is a wealthy enclave best known for its high property tax, great school, and celebrity residents. So tire puncture is one of the things I worry the most about on long trip like this. So this was actually the area where I had suffered a tire blown out the last time when I rode up this trail on my folding bike. And it was a huge pain being the amateur bicyclist that we are, didn't carry a patch kit with us, but at least I had the option. See, if I had suffered the same blowdown on the Monster, there would have been no way for me to actually perform a roadside patch job. To get to the inner tube would require that I essentially disassemble the entire casing and battery.
unfortunate side effect of the bleeding edge nature of an electric unicycle, as most of the engineering effort for now still focuses primarily on just getting the wheels to work reliably, and things like aesthetic and practicality is still secondary.
So this is the first instance where I had extensive seated riding times. Before, I had been very conscious about my foot position, but like the video that Chris loved to post about seated riding of this little puppy in China sitting on top of a MSX riding it without even touching the pedal. Seated riding and acceleration mostly have to do with body position and where you actually sit. This is really nice. Check this out.
This is everything I loved about riding an electric unicycle. By this point of my previous bike trip, we were exhausted, running late, and worried about another tire puncture, and had little mood to stop and taking this incredible sight. Did you notice how empty this beautiful trail had been the whole way? Its length and distance made it inaccessible to most. And while I am sure some spandex-clad hardcore bicyclists would prefer it that way, in my humble opinion, that is an incredibly selfish way of thinking. The trail continued north. We passes the 41-mile marker with 44% battery left, and by this point I had little doubt that I will make it with plenty of power left in the battery and in good time. And as much as I love riding the trail, eventually I had to leave it and get on County Road to get to my destination. And although I didn't quite enjoy sharing roads with 45 miles per hour car traffic, it was still better than being on a bike since the speed differential were much less. Although I do suspect that I can partially attribute that to people slowing down in absolute astonishment at finding a guy cruising on a unicycle on the side of the road.
See, that wasn't so bad. We made it here in one piece. Altogether, that was 3 hours and 50 minutes worth of riding. And since I was seated most of the time, I feel just fine. So the final tally, I'm at mile 54, and there is another 34% left in the bank. So we could go another 20 miles if we need to, right? Hi.
What the heck?
Predictable reaction, I guess. So knowing the end, I did not outlast the monster and have proven to be a solid 70 plus mile range wheel, give or take, and as they say, individual results may vary. Oh, look at the time! I wasted another 14 minutes of your life. As always, please let me know what you think in the comment section below, and like and subscribe to the channel and help me spread the word. So how I managed to be a YouTuber while still knowing nothing about social networking, so I can use all the help I can get. Until the next video, thank you.